ABC's Championship Auto Racing. Turn left at Charlotte. Stock car racing with Richard Petty. Brought to you by Kendall Refining Company, makers of GT1 racing oil. The more you know about oil, the more you know you need Kendall. By Goodyear, the only makers of new double-belted polysteel tires. It's a Plymouth, car number 43, a Grand National stock car. It may not mean too much to you, but to every man, woman, and child in the southeastern part of the United States, they can quote you chapter and verse all about this car and the man who drives it. Richard Petty, the first man in the history of stock car racing to win more than $1 million, driving car number 43. He will be our focus today as we go inside Grand National stock car racing and take a look at the men and the machines that make the story in the National Association Stock Car Automobile Racing. Richard Petty is a winner. Richard's daddy Lee helped pioneer Grand National stock car racing back in 1947. Lee Petty raced for a hobby, drove hard with men like Fireball Roberts, learned what it was to crash and survive, became NASCAR national champion. In a backyard effort, the Petty family garage put together some cars, and young Richard got behind the wheel and grew. He started raising his own family, but where a child grows and becomes a man, a race car sours and is left behind so quickly. The cheers of speedway crowds have bounced off their bright blue bodies, but now they rest in pieces behind the homestead in a vacant lot called the Graveyard. Thousands of miles of racing, so many dollars, bruises, spins, wrecks. In a bleak way, representing progress. The homestead at Level Cross, North Carolina is headquarters for Petty Enterprises. The dirt floor garage out back has become a modern factory for building Grand National race cars, for the Petty team and anyone else with $40,000 cash. Lee Petty, now in his late 50s and manager of Petty Enterprises, enjoys the success, but it's not without bad memories.
I was at Darlington when Richard had his wreck down there, and it was a pretty rough wreck. I was standing near to the fourth turn. He came off and hit the wall, and it was a terrible-looking wreck. And when they brought him into the hospital compound there, I seen he wasn't very much wrong with him, and that really relieved me.
May 9, 1970, Darlington, South Carolina, number 43, Richard Petty at the wheel. Richard escaped with only a dislocated shoulder, cuts and bruises. But he missed the next 6 races and a chance at the 1970 National Championship. The Petty women, conditioned, resolute, resigned.
Well, the speeds are so fast, naturally you have concern. But I know that he's a good driver and that the car is set up good, and that part of it doesn't bother me. It's the other guy that bothers me.
I don't really have any special fears of racing because I know the car is well built and that Richard is a careful driver.
What's it like to crash at 150 miles an hour? Richard Petty tries to remember.
Well, when we had the wreck at Darlington, it was the kind of deal that it was a whole lot my fault. I didn't run into the corner and run into the wall. And when I come face to face with the wall, I just sort of blacked out. I guess it knocked me out, and I really didn't remember any of it. And then I didn't remember any of it, and I don't really associate with it. And so even after seeing the pictures and seeing how bad it was and everything, it really never affected me at all because it was just like not being there.
Survival is tied directly to how you build your race car.
First thing we get in was what they call a body in white, which is nothing except just strictly the body. No chrome, no painting or anything. It's just they just put the body together. Plymouth ships that to us, and we start with that. The 4 bars in the door on each side, really, and this keeps, in case you have trouble with side impact, this keeps everybody away from the driver. And we'll go around, we have the roll bars over the back of the car and all the way around the top. We have 2 bars going down to hold the back suspension up. With a bar around the front and the back, this makes a complete circle with roll bars all the way around the driver. In the engine room, we do all the balancing of all the engine parts. In this particular part here, we do all the grinding and fitting of all the pieces and all the parts. They check everything out to make sure that everything is just right, and then they take them in a little room by themselves and put the engines together. This is the third step. After we get it from the body shop, we bring it down here and put it in the shop, and this is the final assembly. We've already got all the parts painted and everything, and they bring it down here and put it together and get the engine and put the whole car, and this is the finished product. Well, it's really something. We started in this particular place here 18 years ago with one car garage, more or less, and now we have 35,000 square feet in the shop, so we're real proud of what we've done. And
well, I think way back then you was a mechanic, or at least you was learning to be, and I was doing the driving. Now I do part of the mechanic work, and you do the driving. I don't know which one's the hardest. I think it's much harder for me to stand and watch you drive than it is me to do the work.
Working and driving, the Petty's way of life, the good life most of the time. Every year since 1961, they've gone to the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the National 500. They've never won with Richard at the wheel, but the Petty's have never considered not going. Every race, every track, you conform to NASCAR rules or you get out. Configuration has to match a stock car. Weight must be 3,800 pounds minimum. Every race, same competitor. Bobby Allison, one longtime rival. Qualification begins 4 days before the race. Tech inspection over, no more major engine work allowed. Petty's on the track in number 43. In the pits, Richard's cousin, lifelong friend, chief mechanic, Dale Inman. How much importance is put on Richard's qualification?
None. We'd like to sit on the pole very much, but we don't worry about it. If he don't even get in today, we'd be concerned, but he's just not a good qualifier.
What do you mean, he is not a good qualifier?
Well, he's just, I don't know, he just never has really, I don't know where he don't really concentrate on it or nothing, but he just never has been a good qualifier over all of his racing career.
Waiting to qualify, gold and red Mercury number 12, Bobby Allison, riding a winning streak, threatening the Petty supremacy. Another tough competitor, the veteran Bobby Isaac. Cool, deliberate, good equipment under him. Red Dodge, number 71. The Grand National car, 3 times as fast as freeway limits, 3 miles per gallon of gas, 600 horsepower. Richard Petty turns in a 155.4 mile an hour run on his qualifying drive around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Bobby Allison's turn. The run for the pole and the extra money that goes with it. And Bobby wants that pole. Petty's philosophy on running hard, don't ever drive a race car faster than it feels good. Bobby Allison pushes his Mercury to a mark of 156.9, a mile and a half faster than Richard Petty. Charlie Glotzback next, white Chevrolet, number 3, built by Junior Johnson. Another Charger, hungry for a pole start. Charging Charlie's speed, 157.9. He takes the pole position. On Sunday, Richard Petty will start in 5th place. 3 days to go. A lot of sorting out to do. What's it like driving a racing stock car? Well, put yourself in Richard Petty's place. Wheel padded against vibration, a dozen instruments to watch. Centrifugal forces dragging at you as you work through one left turn after another. In the Petty pits, it's a family thing. Brother Maurice keeps the engine tuned to maximum output. Cousin Dale evaluates performance. And behind it all, Lee Petty bosses the operation. The competitors define Richard Petty this way.
Talking about Richard Petty as being a stock car driver, I'd say he's probably one of the toughest stock car drivers I've ever raced against. Probably one of the best stock car drivers in the world. I think that he's probably the cleanest driver. I've never had one moment's problems with him in the whole 13 years that we've been racing together.
Seems like maybe the first part of the race, Richard don't run as hard as he can, but halfway through, he's either leading it or right up in there.
He's there to win, and that's all he thinks about. Anytime he's in a race and he's in there at the end, he's really tough. That's all there is to it. That's Richard Petty.
The preparation continues for Sunday's race. The tires on number 43, one component that does not come from the home shop. The tires have to be tested here at Charlotte to find the best combination, because every track surface is different. In Sunday's race, the blistering friction of sliding the car through high-speed turns, the Petty team may use as many as 12 tires in 500 miles. Not too hot, not too cold. Tire temperature, even the slightest variation, can tell a story, like a little boy with a fever.
They were way off on the temperature as far as 285 to 260. That's just about too hot for the tire. It's 10 degrees off here, and the car is, say, 40 to 60 degrees from front to rear, which is pushing entirely too much.
Petty's won 142 races, over $1 million, on his way to becoming the first man to run 100,000 miles in Grand National competition. A racing man believes the whole world either does or should understand the language of racing. Ask Richard what pushing means, you get this.
Well, that means when you turn this way and the car goes out that way. And when the back end, when they say it's loose, you turn them to the right, the back end's going out. When it's pushing, you turn them to the left and the car's still going right.
Whatever he said. He also has a cure for it.
Well, we'd have to change the wedge in the car, which is the weight on each particular wheel. And if we'd done that, then, although we did do that, it was pushing a little bit before I qualified. So we changed it, and then we was afraid to change it too much.
On a Saturday afternoon at Charlotte, Richard Petty can remember racing wagons and bicycles as a boy waiting for a race. Now, as he watches other boys in other games, he may well reflect that sport and what drives a man to it is relative, but that competition and where it takes you is life. The morning of the race.
I don't never really worry about anybody particularly, except right now I worry about Richard Petty and Buddy Baker because we have two cars in this race. But we've got the Mercury of Bobby Allison's and Charlie Grossbach in the Chevrolet. And we've got Pete Hamilton and Bobby Isaac who run real good. And it's this kind of deal that I think out of the particular ones I mentioned, there might be one or two that slips in there, but here's where really the competition I think is going to come from, and it's the kind of deal we get back to. It's just, whoever gets all the breaks, then they're going to be there.
$40, $50, $60, up to 100,000 people will come to a single stock car race like this one at Charlotte. It's the grassroots following of stock car racing, Southern style. Mechanics, bankers, men from the mills, farm girls, city kids, old folks, roughnecks. They come from hundreds of miles. A lot of them come to see Richard Petty win. The kid from Level Cross who used to hide in the trunk of the car because he wasn't old enough to get into the garage and the pits. The kid who cut his teeth on racing tales laced with four-letter words, told by the big daddies of the game, Curtis Turner, Buck Baker, Junior Johnson, and his own dad. Now, it's Sunday, rainy Sunday, race day. Unlike most road racing rules, stock car racing under NASCAR sanction does not allow running in the rain. But they'll try to run this one because it's the National 500 at Charlotte. Ever lay a hot frying pan against your shoe? That's what it feels like when your boot's pressed against the car's firewall during a race. They call this 100-mile-an-hour tape, and it'll save some hide. Most every weekend throughout the year, there are over 100 races run under NASCAR sanctions and controls, with combined purses totaling millions of dollars annually and individual prizes up to $50,000 for a single super speedway event. Over 5,000 drivers compete in all, but only 80 men earn a full-time living as professional stock car drivers. They are the idols of their era. The pre-race preachment is always the same. Drivers listen, then walk from the drivers' meeting with an official's familiar racetrack rules ringing in their head.
We'll have it best like before the field starts lapping. It'll be a single file restart. But after the field has started to lap, if we have a caution, then it will be a double line restart.
which you're allowed to pull out of the line. When you get the one lap signal, you pull out at the starting line. Go out at the starting line and then pull up on the outside, the hot dog. And I don't want to see any hot dogs hanging down the inside when we drop the green flag.
Richard Petty, belts on, crash helmet, and a strap device to keep his head straight, looped under his arm, attached to his helmet. This holds his head in a normal position, keeps his neck from becoming fatigued as G-forces pull at his body. If he travels 500 miles today, he will make 1,336 left turns at speed. The big question, as the race is about to begin, will the rain hold off for 500 miles? The field will run 5 laps to dry off the wet track under the yellow flag, and then the race is on. It's a mile and a half every time around the Charlotte Motor Speedway, 34 seconds a lap. Much of it is simple endurance.
Well, we get pretty tired most of the time when we have a real long race. 500 miles sitting in the car, 4 hours or something like this, and you got to get tired just staying in one place.
When something hazardous happens, a crash, oil on the track, or a bad spin, a yellow light signals the drivers to fall in line at a reduced speed and no passing until the track is safe again. So everybody uses the yellow to come into the pits for fuel and tires. As long as the yellow's on, you don't lose your running position, providing you're out on that track before the green light flickers back on. 20 gallons of gas, new tires, in less than 20 seconds. If the pit stop occurs under the green, the pressure on the crew is even more crucial. With the green light, you run full throttle with the most experienced men in stock car racing, waiting for a mistake and hoping it won't be yours. Attrition and danger always here. A smooth, sure ride can instantly turn into an apparent nightmare. Some say this is what the fans really want, while others argue it's not true. They don't come just to see fire and smoke. They come to see the best drivers handle dire circumstances. They may even come to watch the drivers tempt fate, but they want them to escape. Each of these men has been through spins and wrecks that would scare an average driver out of his wits. But these drivers are like fighter pilots. They know exactly what they are doing and where the limits are. Drafting and slingshotting, a Petty innovation developed at Daytona, the first of the high bank super speedways. He makes a spectacular move, passing the number 21 car, Donnie Allison, to take the lead halfway through the race, and the crowd comes alive. Then Allison's drafting Petty, nose to tail at 180 miles an hour. This is how it works. Allison right on Petty's bumper, tailgating, a maneuver called drafting. A car running alone or in front must force its way through the air. The faster it goes, the more pressure or resistance there is. 2 cars inside a long slipstream. There is no air in between the cars, a vacuum. The first car plowing the air. With less resistance, the second car saves power. At the right time, the trailing car slingshots out of the slipstream. Front car loses advantage of the vacuum. With its momentary reserve horsepower, the second car overcomes the air resistance and whips past the lead car. Your only defense is retaliation. So it becomes a seesaw maneuver played back and forth over hundreds of hair-raising miles. Donnie Allison tries to slingshot Richard Petty, but he can't pull it off, and it becomes a contest of sheer floorboard power. Donnie edges ahead of Richard, and so goes the battle through the long, humid afternoon. Richard Petty with a chance to win at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, with rain clouds hanging over his hopes. Lap 238, a little more than 100 miles to go. The same rainstorm that postponed the beginning of the race at Charlotte returns to end the competition prematurely, with Bobby Allison running at the front of the pack. Richard Petty finishes 5th in the shortened race. For Bobby Allison and his crew, a happy moment. For Richard Petty, the echo of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the old mocking challenge. Pride of Heat.
Hot. That's right. Now it wasn't hot. I tell you, it was like anything else. He got all the brakes, so he got a lap behind. Him and Donnie both got a lap behind, and they were just fortunate enough they caught the caution flags and caught back up. But it being a green flag race all the way through, so they'd wind up a lap behind.
Right.
Yeah, we're good.
Better one down the road.
Oh, well, we're good enough.
The executive producer of ABC Sports is Roone Arledge. Turn left at Charlotte, stock car racing with Richard Petty, produced by Ned Steckel. Today's program was directed by Andy Sedaris. Written by William Edgar and Andy Sedaris. This is Keith Jackson. ABC's Championship Auto Racing. Turn left at Charlotte, stock car racing with Richard Petty, has been brought to you by Goodyear, the only makers of new double-belted polysteel tires. This has been an ABC Television Network Sports presentation.